We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
I hate using the word convergence because it's so old and overused, but Adrian said it first, so I'm going to use it now.
Don't say that. What? That? What? That? The Z word. Don't say it. Why not? Because it's ridiculous. All right.
More AV gear is leveraging IT software and the resi and commercial gear divide. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 671, recorded Friday, June 28th, 2024. Inevitable AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest AV news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information. First and foremost, Kelly Teal from SSR. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, as always, for having me.
Thank you so much. A young man who is in my neck of the woods, Mr. Adrian Boyd from D10. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you for having me back.
Thank you, sir. And last but not least, a gentleman who stayed up late for us. Gabby Shriki is from Valens and HD Base D and is coming to us from Israel. Welcome, sir.
Happy to be here. This is my first time, so maybe not the last one.
Yeah, absolutely. I've interviewed Gabby a number of times at various trade shows, but this is his first time on AV Week, so you two be nice to him, please. A couple things going on, and I'll do some housekeeping at the end, but this is our first show since InfoComm. We ran a couple specials that we recorded at the show. First one back in the studio. And so we've got a couple stories that kind of came out of the show in Vegas. The first one, though, is from Barco. At InfoComm 24, Barco revealed plans to integrate Microsoft's device ecosystem platform into its next-gen ClickShare solutions. This move aims to enhance security and enterprise-grade functionality while allowing Barco to focus on improving user experience. Jan Van Hout, EVP of Meeting Experience at Barco, emphasized the company's commitment to simplicity and innovation in meeting spaces, citing the expanded partnership with Microsoft as a key driver. The collaboration is expected to leverage Microsoft's expertise in security, management, and AI capabilities, potentially, quote unquote, revolutionizing the way businesses conduct video conferences and managing their meeting room technology. Kelly, start with you on this. What does this say about AV companies, AV manufacturers, hardware manufacturers leveraging the IT and the software side of meeting technology and conference technology?
I think it was inevitable. We all knew it was coming. I think it suggests exactly what it says. They're increasingly integrating into audiovisual spaces and platforms, and I think they're kind of becoming a convergence of technologies. So I think they're incorporating those capabilities. Such the IT platforms are incorporating those capabilities, such as the video conferencing, streaming, content delivery, and they're incorporating that into their existing frameworks. And this is allowing, I think it's allowing for more seamless integration of those different types of media and communication technologies. I think it's also saying, here's this enhanced functionality, by entering these audiovisual spaces, these platforms enhance the functionality and versatility of the AV setups, which again, I think is something that was inevitable, and that improves compatibility, the scalability and efficiency of it. And then we also get into cloud integration. I think they're leveraging the cloud computing a lot, and that can provide benefits for remote access, storage, and processing power for AV content. And I think it facilitates easier management and distribution of the audiovisual data. And I think the IoT and connectivity, with the rise of IoT, platforms can connect and control AV devices more effectively. And it can also lead to smarter AV environments with automated processing processes. I can't talk today, and essentially better user experiences, which is, I think, the end goal. Aside from market expansion, which is I think their main goal. They want to expand the market by offering new solutions or integrating with the existing AV technologies. But the competition and innovation could drive advancements regardless in both industries. So I think it's I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine situation.
All right. Adrian, same kind of question, and I could make the argument that D10 is doing some of this already, right? Because not only does D10 leverage Zoom, but now that you guys have introduced the Microsoft Teams aspect as well, you're leveraging some of this already, right? Where you guys are making hardware and kind of leaning on and leveraging the software side from both Zoom and Teams. What does that say about this whole integration and a little bit of playing nice with software manufacturers and hardware folks?
Well, it's, one of the spiels of us is we make hardware that runs someone else's software, right? That's Zoom's Zoom Room experience for touch, and that's Microsoft Teams on Android at the moment. So with MDEP, we are actively in that development process along with a lot of other manufacturers that live in the Android ecosystem for Teams. And the hope is that with Microsoft sort of taking control a little bit of the platform, that's Central lives under that Android open source environment, that the development time of features will be a lot faster. Because that's one of the things that's a struggle is there's a little bit of a disparity between Teams on Android versus Teams on Windows in terms of like bells and whistles. And so the real hope is that with the adoption of this program, more or less, and the Microsoft's kind of taking this development aspect of it to speed up that, in terms of features and functions, and really give us as manufacturers a lot more flexibility and being able to say, hey, the development time is now shorter. You've got certified packages, it's a good known source. You're not having to reinvent the wheel sometimes in a lot of aspects. So it does seem like it's a real win for manufacturers. It seems like a real win for Microsoft, and more vendors are going to support this. You've got Barco, you have Jabra. We're all in the process. We're all part of an association that wants to make sure that this is a real success for the Teams ecosystem.
I would also expect a number of other not just peripherals, but other manufacturers to jump on board as well.
Yeah, it's really about the endpoint and ensuring that the endpoint is reliable, and and when you look at the security, that's kind of been some of the struggles with Android on Teams is a couple more hurdles to get through when you look at things like Intune and the conditional access and making sure that's configured appropriately. You've got the rules in place, and being able to, do auto sign-in and auto enrollments and just really have a more robust ecosystem. That's really what, at the end of the day, when you look at this, is going to help manufacturers, it's going to help teams, and it's going to help adoption in the industry for end users.
I think the Zoom and Teams of the world are trying to create a unified experience for the end user, and they will be more, I would say, adamant about it. They will be more strict on the way you can certify your systems to work as a Team certified product or Zoom. And the end goal will be to make it simple for the end user and reliable. So the addition of wireless sharing from Barco is a good feature that is required in some of the setups. Most of the rooms today are still wired, but I think that the addition of wireless distribution is valuable for some corporations and some meeting room scenarios.
All right, very good. Next story comes to us actually from a couple different places. The one that we're using is from AVNation's site. MSE Audio has announced a major rebranding initiative for its audio product line. The company will now represent its professional audio products under the SoundTube brand, which I've been familiar with for a number of years, while residential products will be consolidated under the PhaseTech brand. This restructuring aims to leverage the strengths and rich histories of both brands. SoundTube has about 30 years of reputation for innovation, quote unquote, in commercial audio, and PhaseTech's nearly 7-decade legacy in home audio excellence. Shannon Humphrey, the president of SoundTube, emphasized that this realignment will provide greater clarity for customers while maintaining the company's commitment to high quality audio solutions and customer service. Adrian, not the first company to do this.
No.
I am reminded just 2 weeks ago, recording this podcast after Infocom, Paul Hales from Pro Audio Design has released Theory Audio. Pro Audio is a residential high-end sound screening room audio system, and he now has Theory Audio, which is the professional line. Our buddy Joe Whitaker and Jeremy Burkhart from Origin Acoustics, they have released a pro version of that as well. There is a list of folks that have tried to segment this off between this is our professional commercial AV stuff and this is our residential AV stuff. All three of y'all are sitting at home. Now, I am not. I'm in a studio, a very nice studio, but you guys are all at home. And there's a hypothesis I have played with for the last year or two, and that is, as we all went home in 2020, yes, there were certainly some consumer-grade necessities that we had to do, right? We all grabbed the first webcam we could get and headset that we could get. But as those years have waned on, we have replaced those with a professional microphone, a professional camera, a commercial grade of that. So I don't quite get this delineation between pro and consumer. In addition to that, you've got places like ISC that happen every year that combine the two. You've got CEDIA along with the CEDIA Expo that consolidate the two. We'll get to Gabby here in a second, but the HB has been exhibiting at both CEDIA and Infocom for years. So Adrian, at what point does good product, regardless of what the manufacturer says it is, simply go into both instances?
I think sometimes it comes down to price point, right? Because you can find a lot of products that have similar features, and it comes down to pricing on that consumer versus prosumer versus commercial.
I want to let you finish that, but one thing about price point, and I'll go to displays for a second. If you buy the same generic 55-inch display,
yeah,
right? You buy it at Best Buy or you buy it from CDW, okay, or AVISPL or CTI or whoever. The use case is slightly different, right? Because the commercial one is built to go 24/7, and the one from Best Buy is not.
Yes.
Continue.
Yes, there are those differences when we, like, if you really want to, get displays, right? And in the installation world, there are tons of times where you're putting in a consumer-based product in a commercial installation because, number one, there's a price to it, but that could be the only product on the market that does that, right? So and when you look at like audio companies, they generally have their consumer and their commercial, and the lines get a little blurred because the drivers, the components of the speakers cross lines, right? And generally you're getting into things like warranty, cabinet design. With speakers, you have things like rigging points, right? The speaker you have in your home can be somewhat identical to that commercial speaker with little bits of deviations, right? And cameras can be the same way, right? The CCU that's used in that webcam can be pretty much identical to the CCU in a professional camera, but then you get additional features, right? The streaming functionality, the network-based tools, you might get a UI interface or a management component to it that you're not getting in the web camera. And that all those things, kind of come together. Now, are we seeing a true convergence of those things? In some verticals, yes. In some product lines, yes. Makes sense, right? Why am I going to have two different brands under an umbrella or organization, corporation, when they do the exact same thing, right?
Gabby, I'm going to show my age here for a second. I am old enough to remember when S-Video came out in the consumer side. I am old enough to remember when HDMI came out on the consumer side. Now, we no longer use S-Video, thank God, because they were a pain in the ass to put together. We still use HDMI. Okay. USB-C is something that started on the consumer side, and now we all use it in the professional and the commercial side. HD-based and Valens, you guys have solutions for that. So talk for a second about, I hate using the word convergence because it's so old and overused, but Adrian said it first, so I'm going to use it now. this convergence between commercial and consumer, and how, you know, the philosophy of trying to keep these brands separate when they both kind of do the same thing.
Right. So I think the most clear thing is that a lot of us are now working from home. So we want to have the same user experience, the same quality as we had in our office, in our meeting rooms, in the corporate that I was working for. And that is driving higher end equipment, could be audio as well as display and cameras coming into the house, into my residential market. We have customers who use HD-based, and I'm jump to my mind the restaurant like Lona, AV Pro Edge that are focusing on commercial, but at the same time also investing heavily on residential. We see smart displays are now able to play content. So how do I get that content from the speakers of the display to my surround system? And you will need to use like the audio return channel or the enhanced audio return channel for doing that in a reliable way. The Type-C is a great example. So the Type-C started from the cell phones, primarily for charging. Later on, of course, adding USB capabilities. So now I can use that Type-C connector, one single Type-C cable, and the single cable philosophy, sits well with the HD-based single cable philosophy, right? We aggregate, we multiplex a lot of interfaces on the same single cable. So from a user experience, he sees one single Type-C cable, he plugs it to his source, to his laptop, and he gets everything. He gets the charging for the laptop, he gets the video, the USB, and this is extended over the single cable of HD-based. We launched during Infocom the USB 3, HD-based USB 3 solution. Single ASIC, very small, very low cost, very low power, that will enable multiple applications that were suffering before and had to settle for USB 2 extension only. There is one caveat with the USB-C. It can do a lot, and it's not always clear for the end user what it does. So if I'm sitting in a room and I see this cable, is it just here for charging? Is it for USB only? Or is it for video? We haven't got it right yet. I think that the Microsoft, the Zoom, will need to help in this respect and have it visible for the user once he plugs the cable. Let us know, what are we getting from this cable? This is just for charging and USB, or this is also with video? This is something that we will need, and until then, the integrator will need to solve that for the end user.
So like USB-C, like Type-C, is a real fun connector because it's a connector that's a high-speed data pipeline that has two standards associated with it. You have Thunderbolt, which is Intel, Apple, right? And then you've got USB 3.x, or 3.0, 4.0, right? And it's intended for desktop environments, short distances, 6 feet and under, right? 9 feet if you push it. But then you get us crazy AV people that go, hey, and the manufacturers go, hey, I can do a lot, shrink my physical footprint on a piece of hardware, right? And then from the integrator side, we go, well, now I need to get that past the standard limit, right? Which is based around your desk, plugging in your keyboard, your mouse, your webcam, or your headphones, right? Your cell phone. But I want to make it go further. And that's always been the struggle, right? So using, like Valens chipsets to get that USB signal, because it's a data and a video path past that, that's the struggle. And that's what, what Gabby was mentioning is when I have that cable, and this goes back to like some of the original when USB Type-C was getting adopted, the huge swath of, if I plug a cable in, do I get power? Is it the right kind of power? Do I get video? Yep. Do I get data? Well, what kind of data am I getting? Am I getting, full speed USB? Am I getting high speed? And that's the real struggle. Because the end user, they just see a single cable. But on the back end, the integrator and the manufacturer, we are doing a lot of stuff with it that sometimes, I don't want to say breaks the spec, but we do like the left turn at Albuquerque.
We stretch the spec.
We stretch it a lot.
We stretch it.
Right. And I want to add to this confusion, maybe, Tim, the power delivery scheme on Type-C is really challenging. So you get the spec is changing rapidly. Valence recently acquired Acroname, an expert in this domain, switchable hub, power delivery expert. And with them, we believe that will bring a lot of good news to the market. We will enable understanding the Type-C cable, understanding the power delivery. The power delivery can be a little bit complicated. And if you don't know what you're using, then you may not understand all the way how to use it.
Kelly, actually, that's where I wanted to go with you. Is you're talking to customers, you're talking to decision makers who are designing new buildings, designing new spaces, and I don't want this to dive into USB-C specifically. But when we're talking to the customer and saying, "Hey, look, here's some options you have," does it matter that it's resi versus commercial, or is it just what's the best thing to get the job done?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, the distinctions are becoming increasingly blurred. And, I think several factors contribute to this trend. And like you said, convergence, you hate to use the word, but they were traditionally used, there were technologies that were traditionally used in commercial settings, such as video conferencing systems, large format displays, and advanced audio equipment, but they're now being adopted in residential environments. I don't even tell people that the first half of my career I worked in high-end residential because it doesn't matter anymore. And the consumer demand is really what's driving and they're increasingly seeking a sophisticated AV solution for their homes. And yes, budget is a point, that's important when it comes to what you're going to choose. But high resolution displays and things like immersive audio systems and integrated smart controls, if it gets the job done and it's what they're asking for, and it's for every use case that they're wanting, and that consumer demand continues to drive the integration of commercial grade technologies into residential spaces, we're not going to have any more of a distinction between this is just commercial and this is just residential. Now, we're not going and putting a stadium level line arrays in a home, but there are things that we can implement into design integration. I mean, there is a growing emphasis on integrating AV systems into architectural and interior designs, whether that's residential or commercial, whichever context it's in. And I think it highlights a shared interest in aesthetics, functionality, and user experience across both sectors. I think that's the most important part of it. Regulatory and safety standards aside, I think that's what people want is does this work the way I'm asking it to, whether it's a home theater, home automation, multi-room audio system, VR and gaming, outdoor entertainment, telepresence. I think when considering the use of commercial AV equipment, I think we should stop calling it commercial and say this is the product you need for this to work in this scenario, and it's essential to ensure that compatibility with infrastructure, power requirements, and space constraints are all taken into consideration. And then you consult with a professional such as one of us. And then we just take what's suitable for that environment, and we just ensure proper installation and integration for optimal performance, regardless of if it's in a home or if it's in a restaurant. I mean, there's just, the line is getting blurred because right now people won't ask, what can we use on the resi side? People just go, hey, can I do this in this environment? Does it work that way? And, sometimes here's my price. And then you got to kind of, and I agree with Adrian, price is a big, big thing for people. But like you said, the large format displays is a perfect example. That there's situations and circumstances where you can use certain models in both instances, in both environments. And it's just getting to that point where that is just completely becoming a blurred line. And it's just, there's that distinction is slowly disappearing.
Let me ask this, and I hesitate to ask this, but I'm still going to, because something Kelly brought up there is it doesn't matter between commercial and residential. And I have written about this for years, ever since I first heard the term, and that is the term Recimercial. My email address is tim@avnation.tv. Knock yourself out, right? You're probably not going to argue anything that I haven't heard before. But good Lord, you can call it whatever you want, but it is the realization, it's the acknowledgement that not only do you have residential dealers doing work in light commercial, I don't care what kind of commercial, But if it's not inside a house, it's not residential. Okay. And you have dealers doing that type of work, and they are using product that sometimes would go into a house and sometimes may not. But that confluence between the residential and the commercial is rapidly deteriorating. Because like Gabby said, you're working from home. You want a high quality, robust setup that's not going to break. You're not going to go to Best Buy and get a setup there. You're going to hire an integrator. You're going to call somebody like Kelly. You're going to get a designer in there, and you're going to put in product by and large that is more robust. And that leads to a commercial grade type product.
It can. I mean, the story is always the same, and at least in my career, it's always been, you do the boardroom, right, for a company, right? Yeah. You'll get your C-suite, executives. Can I get this in my house, right? Can I get this on my boat? And that's always been that conversation. And then vice versa. You get, someone who's had their, something done in their house going, I own a business. Can you do this for me? And that's where that blurring of the lines, that's where the convergence really has started, is because it's all AV, regardless of what the product is. Speaker's a speaker, right? A camera's a camera. They all do the same thing. It's just now you've got maybe different gazinas and gazadas and different little doodads. And then as AV people, it's our education that's the value, because we can tell you, this camera on paper is the same, but this camera that works like this and this camera works like that. And when you use it with this or you with that, you get these other different features. And that's what people come to us for, right? And that's still the value that we will always have, is we're able to kind of look at that and go, this is how this box works and that's how that box works. And to get this end result, you need to put these things together like Lego.
Right. But we do need to be conscious that some of the brands, due to different pricing strategies, they will try to avoid it and differentiate between the lines, or create a sub version of that same product just to be able to sell it at a consumer grade pricing. It is a problem, but I think that the technology, the essence is going to be identical in many cases.
Last thing I will say to kind of is a dear, very, very, very dear friend of mine, who he calls himself a technology concierge. His name's Uncle Richie Frigosa out of San Francisco. He has spent the majority of his life doing high-end residential. And the last 5 or 6 years, Rich has found himself at the top of a very tall building in San Francisco programming the conference room automation system, because of what Adrian said. You did my house. I trust you, right? I want you doing my boardroom. And I see more and more of those than I do these isolated, I only do residential. We can have the conversation later about commercial folks, because I know a lot of commercial folks, especially when you look at the SCN Top 50, don't any of them touch residential, right? And they'll tell you that straight up, right? A lot of them have partners. A lot of them have people that they trust, that they can refer their customers to, but they don't touch residential. But it's the opposite direction that I'm seeing that movement. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. We did have another story. I'll have Mitchell put it up. It's about security. We will not have time for it. So that is all the time we have. Kelly Teal, thank you so much. How do people connect with you or SSR?
I am on LinkedIn. I think it's under Kelly Teal. I should probably change it to say, I think it's under Kelly T, but I should change it to say Kelly Teal. And then SSR is, oh my goodness, I don't know the website, but it's Smith Seckman Reed. So if you search SSR Engineering, it will come up.
Mr. Boyd, good to see you, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
How do people connect with you or D10?
D10, www.d10.com. You'll find us there. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Just put my name into the search bar, D10. I'll show up. I am on Twitter, now known as X, as the AV CAD guy. There's underscores between that. But yeah, you can always reach out to me through various methods, and especially if you want to talk about Teams and Zoom and how they work and how to get things to do things they're not supposed to do.
All right. Very good. Gabby, good to see you, sir. How do people connect with you or HDBST or Valence?
Two great resources. One is valence.com. The other one is hdbst.org. A lot of information there.
All right, thanks so much. For me, for Tim Albright, don't follow me on anything social-wise because I am not very exciting. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You'll find this program and a host of others. As we are recording this, our handy and ever working Mitchell has put up a brand new EdTech podcast from Infocom, so you can check that out, as well as all of our other podcasts. And also, I mentioned the fact that talking about CEDIA and residential, I will be heading to Denver 5th through the 7th of September for CEDIA Expo, as well as the CI Expo. So you can check us out there. So all that and more at avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
Hi, this is Jennifer Goodyear
and Erica Carroll
from the Women in AV podcast, where we are encouraged by the incredible stories of women in AV.
Listen in on fun, empowering conversations as we chat with inspiring women, breaking barriers and creating their own path in the industry.
Check out Women in AV on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is AVNation.